So today we're in the third week of a series which we hope helps us, all of us, to realign our thinking with God's thinking. And in just my opinion, there couldn't be a better time to hear this message. Because Christianity is not a brainless faith or religion. It is not opposed to reason or logic, even if it has been presented to you that way at some point by a well-meaning cleric or a friend. Faith transcends logic, but it does not contradict it. So wouldn't it be great if we could answer all the questions that people ask us with the answer that God wants us to give? I mean, we all have friends and family members or coworkers, and when they find out that you go to church or you're Catholic, they assume things about you that may not necessarily be true. People like it easy. So when they hear that you're Catholic or that you go to church, they assume all these things from their past experiences with Catholics, or if they didn't really know anybody who identified themselves as Catholic, then maybe some article that they read online, or maybe watching TV about Amy the last week or so. Then they throw out these questions, and the questions stump Amy. You know who Amy is, right? The Supreme Court Justice, gonna be, wanna be? Yeah. So people might say, well, if God is all good and powerful, then how come there is all this pain and suffering in the world? Or maybe I pray and it doesn't make any difference because I didn't get what I asked for, so I don't pray anymore. Or maybe you've tried to invite a friend to church and heard, I'm a good person, so I don't really need to go to church. And what they mean is, my past experience with going to church was not that great. It's difficult to overcome. But doesn't it bother you more than that you just don't have the answers? They just don't spring off your tongue. So we're in the latter part of the Gospel of Matthew, and this takes place in the last weeks of Jesus' life. And he's come into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday, and the crowds love him. The crowds are crazy about him, but the religious and political leaders are not. Kind of like Pope Francis today. They are profoundly jealous of his popularity and are enraged that he has held a light up to their hypocrisy. So the Pharisees went off and plotted how they might entrap Jesus in speech. And they might just think that Jesus is some simple-minded carpenter from backwater Nazareth. So they sent their disciples to him with the Herodians, this is from the gospel, saying, Teacher, we know that you are a truthful man and that you teach the way of God in accordance with the truth, and you are not concerned with anyone's opinion, for you do not regard a person's status. So Matthew tells us the Pharisees sent their followers with these Herodians. These are King Herod's people, right? So you got the Pharisees and the people from the Roman Empire represented in the Jewish community, okay? And it's strange because they all hated each other, but they were working together because they hated Jesus more. They asked Jesus about the census tax of all things, and it doesn't seem like it means much to us, but it's a loaded question at that time, because just like today, no one ever really likes to pay taxes. But the Jews hated these taxes, and of course, the Herodians loved them because they got a piece of the action. They got a slice of every pie that they collected. So when the question was asked, is it lawful to pay the tax? If he says, pay the tax, then he's condoning idolatry and enraging the Pharisees. And if he says, don't pay the tax, he would be upsetting the Herodians, and through them then getting himself in trouble with the Romans. So it's a lose-lose question. These guys were smart. Either way, they can use it against him. And you may feel like that. with some of the questions that you have received. You feel stuck because no matter what answer you give, you lose, or the good purpose of your well-meaning desire for them to grow in a faith that you love loses. Neither answer seems correct. So how do you answer all these questions? Look at how Jesus handled this situation. Knowing their malice, Jesus said, "Why are you testing me, you hypocrites?" He always did that. He would ask a question when somebody asked him a really tough question that was a trap. "Why are you testing me? Show me the coin that pays the census tax." And they hand him the Roman coin. And I love the reaction from Jesus, because just his reaction tells us what strength of character, well, he's Jesus, but really impressive argument, kind of like, don't you wish you could do that? He's street smart, and we see his courage to just, number one, call out their hypocrisy, tells them straight out that they're hypocrites, and then he exposes them by saying, "Show me the coin." Like, I know you have the coin on you, and you're about to do what you're asking me is the just thing to do. So it's not really a trap that would work, because they're carrying the coin around in their pocket. And they hand it to him, so by even having the coin, they give themselves away. Of course they paid the tax. And Jesus says, "Then repay to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to God what belongs to God." Caesar made the coin. It's in his image. So if he wants it, give it back to him. And here's the point. By comparison, God made you. You are his creation, not Caesar's, not your employers, not your presidential candidates. You are God's creation alone. And God made you in his image. You belong to God. And so give your life and your loyalty to God. And that shut them up. So let's try to apply this to our questions that we might receive, the questions that stump us and leave us confused, whatever they may be. There is a word that Jesus used that is often the answer when we are faced with these tough questions, because the answers are not just simple. Oftentimes, and the word, did you get it? It was "and." Oftentimes, "and" is the key to thinking when it comes to faith. Then repay to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to God what belongs to God. So yes, give your life to God and obey the law. God is all good and all powerful, and there is pain and suffering in the world because of sin and evil. Prayer works, and you don't always get what you pray for as you pray for it. So this week, I want to encourage you to confront those questions that have been bothering you, not so you can have some snappy comeback next time you hear one, because it's not about being right, but so you can get on God's wavelength. God thinks differently than we do. And when we align our thinking with God's thinking, we're much more likely to do what God wants us to do.